Hey, Chris Manning here from Locked On Cavs on a solo episode for this Wednesday, October 20th. We're going to cover 6 key stats for 6 key Cleveland Cavaliers players. Segment 1, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. Segment 2, Collin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen. And segment 3, Isaac Okoro and Jarrett Allen. So that's all coming up today on Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Also want to thank everyone for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so a couple notes before we dive into the stats on today's show. Number one, Evan's off today. Obviously, it's just me here. We'll be back after Cavs Grizzlies, so tune in, subscribe, hit that like button, and that thumbs up button on YouTube, and hit that notification bell if you have not already. And also, there is a little bit of reporting out there from Chris Feeder of Cleveland.com that Lauri Markkanen may start ahead of Isaac Okoro at small forward. We will see if that is going to be the case. That's certainly an interesting decision. If you listened to the show before, it's not something I'm particularly uh, optimistic about as a solution for what the Cavs are. Right? We'll see how that works out. There's also some people we won't cover in this episode. So Taco Fall, Ricky Rubio, Kevin Love. There's like some guys that I don't think are worth thinking about in this way. I'm really focusing on the young guys, focusing on the young core, the whatever, the Super Six, whatever like name you want, what people are going to throw out there for these various young guys. We're going to dive into that, into the guys that aren't those guys. So first up, as noted, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, maybe the two most interesting players for the Cavs this year. And let's start with Darius Garland. Garland is obviously a really key piece for the Cavaliers and someone who's going to have a massive impact on what they're going to do and be this season. And I think there are a lot of different numbers, a lot of different avenues you could go to say, okay, follow this for the season and stick along. There could be a point, about his assist numbers, his just raw assist numbers or assist percentage if you want to go that route. You could do his assist to usage ratio as your number. That is going to be such a big part of what he does that it is worth monitoring, right? Like I think Garland and the way they're setting this up is going to be the connective tissue of the team. And if he isn't, killer as a creator, as the lead creator, really, and probably doing some secondary creation in terms of moving the ball and keeping things flowing and picking up hockey assist and even assists where he's making the first out of 3-4 passes in the row to jumpstart something, then this is a Cavs offense that is likely going to struggle at times. And it's already potentially not very good. But for me, I'm going to go with Darius Garland's 3-point volume here. So last year, according to Cleaning the Glass, he was in the 32nd percentile of guards last year in 3-point rate, and that was down from around league average in that 50th percentile the season before. Garland's numbers suggest that he is actually a pretty darn good shooter. 40% overall from three last year, 39% on corner threes, 44% on corner three-pointers. That was an improvement from his rookie year, which obviously was wonky, had the injury issues cut short for a lot of different reasons. So take that all into consideration. But let's just see what happens if Garland starts launching more threes, both off ball and as the team plays fast and moves the ball, and in 3-point looks that come from him running a pick and roll, him running a big spread pick and roll where Mobley or Allen are skirting for him very high up the floor. If he takes them in isolation late in the shot clock, situations like that are kind of what can help him level up as an offensive guard. He doesn't have, if you want to compare him to someone in his draft class, someone the Cavs are playing tonight in John Morant. John Morant is much more athletic. He is much more explosive. He will get downhill and punish you with dunks and try to yam on your head at all costs. He also has shown to be a really good cutter and a very interesting player off the ball in ways to kind of make up for his lack of that consistent 3-point shot that we haven't seen yet. Garland just doesn't have that athleticism, that raw kind of explosiveness that really makes Morant so intriguing, right? So if Garland's going to level up towards being a all-star level player, a cog of this franchise going forward, to me, it is something that has to come from the three-point shooting. His mold is going to be taking pull-up threes. It's going to be taking step-back threes. It's going to be making a ton of threes and ramping up the value and becoming more efficient. Still take a floater, still take a pull-up J here and there, but really take more threes, really get that going and spread his game out and kind of stretch the defense out too. If he's going to play with Isaac Okoro, he's going to play with two bigs who might not be able to shoot. I think one of the things you need to do is really just get him spreading out the floor and stretching things out. It feels like such the obvious step for me in terms of what he needs to take a step forward at on the offensive end. It's clearly the three-point shooting. Let's see if the volume goes. Let's see if that can get ramped up a tick, and let's see if the percentages hold. Because if they do, that's the foundation of a really, really good offensive player. So for Evan Mobley, I think there are a few ways you could go with this as well. You could do a defensive number. I mean, you could look at on-off numbers if you wanted to kind of take a bigger macro approach to this. Sometimes those can be fluky, but he's a rookie, etc. But you could also look at how many three-pointers he's going to take as just a note of curiosity, right? Um, I would accept minutes played, honestly, as an option, considering how important it'll be for him to get his feet wet and for him to play a lot. Because this year is, for me, really about understanding what you have in Mobley. It's about getting his feet under him as he adjusts to the NBA. But I'm going to go with his assist usage ratio because Mobley's passing is one of the things that makes him such a fascinating player. It's such an interesting part of his game. And to me, looking at the preseason, taking what the coaches have said and whatnot, it seems like the Cavs are going to use him as a hub at times and rely on his playmaking to make some things flow. You're going to see him at the elbow catching an inbounds pass and dishing it back. You're going to see him bringing the ball up at times off of live rebounds. You're going to see him be a guy that has to be part of the Cavs offensive flow and passing the ball and getting guys open. I think him as a guy feeding cutters coming around him. Maybe some high-low action with Jarrett Allen if they could kind of create some energy to that, right? Like we saw them do that last year with Kevin Love and Drummond a little bit, and it was very static. It was very just kind of not really aggressive or not really making things easy. And if you're going to do this and you want to feed this, you gotta make it easy. And Mobley can be a guy with his passing that can make things easier for everyone else. If you want to look at like kind of where this might go, if you want to say, okay, he's done this really at a high level and he can kind of we look where he's going to go. It's not apples to apples. They're a little different players, obviously. I think, Towns, the guy I'm going to Karl Anthony Towns, the guy I'm going to talk about here, is more of an offensive player. Mobley's defensive upside is, seemingly much, much higher than what Towns has shown in the NBA. But something like Karl Anthony Towns' rookie year, where his assist usage ratio was 0.49, so 53rd percentile among bigs as a rookie. Seems like a benchmark for Mobley that he could probably hit. If he can do that, and we see right away that he can read defenses, that he can make quick passes, that he's going to juice the offense a little bit, that'll lead you to interesting things with him. You can start using him. You can add in layers to the offense. Use him as a creation hub more explicitly. We've seen in the preseason where I think he's moving really quickly in post-ups and not letting defenses load up against him because he's so darn skinny and he's going to be screwed if that happens. Well, if you can do that and he can make quick decisions out of the post and use his height and his length to his advantage and has good instincts on reading defenses, like this opens up some things if the creation is there and if you're going to get good results, higher assist percentages versus turnovers versus just errant passes, whatever. I'm all for it. So I want to see that from him. We're going to take a quick break here. After the break, we're going to go into Collin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen. We'll dive into those two guys. Another two key pieces for the Cavs. And remember, in break 3, we'll talk about Isaac Okoro and Jarrett Allen. First, though, we got to tell everyone about our friends at Sweatblock. Sweatblock, we've been talking about for a few weeks now. Their wipes are going to stop sweat for 7 days, and it seems people have been listening. We have friends at Locked On who've tried Sweatblock and love it. For instance, we have a story here about a high school teacher. He'd pit out by the 4th period. He'd hear the snickers and the whispers from students. So he started bringing a second shirt to change into between classes. Then he heard about Sweatblock from one of the Locked On Great podcasts. He tried it, and now he's hooked. And no more Snickers, no more second shirt. We have a Hollywood producer who works on the set of Marvel movies. Maybe you've heard of Marvel. And he's working 18-hour days in the Atlanta heat. Well, he used Sweatblock and started trying it and loves it. No more sweaty production days. She even reports that one of the A-list actors use it, maybe the green one, and it's to stay dry and set and on the red carpet. There are soccer players. There are, other podcast hosts that use this. I know Evan loves Sweatblock, and I love Sweatblock as well. So look, Sweatblock's the real deal. There you go. Locked On listeners also like you love Sweatblock. So stop excessive sweat for up to 7 days per use. Doctor created, doctor recommended. There's a dry shirt guarantee. If Sweat Block doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. And it's not just for armpits, chest, back, feet, hands. Use it anywhere, and I mean anywhere. That sweats. If you or someone you know is dealing with excessive sweat, you have to check out Sweat Block. Give it a try for 20% off at sweatblock.com with promo code LOCKEDON. And you can also find it at Amazon and CVS. All right, so let's talk about Collin Sexton. Let's talk about Lauri Markkanen. To start with, Collin Sexton. He's obviously such a lightning rod player for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He is such a lightning rod player in terms of his importance on the season this year, his contract situation. If you haven't heard Evan and I talk about that, go back to our 2 previous shows for deep dives into what's going on with Collin and what could be coming next for him and why it fell apart and whatnot. But with Collin, he is a little bit complicated in this because I think I could just go through the Garland point again, talk about his 3-point volume, and talk about needing to push his game in that direction. It's obviously something that he's added to his game. He came into the league, very uncomfortable taking 3-pointers. There's a play that is etched in my brain where he dribbled in from a corner 3, and he's really become a true shooter. There's one month every year, it seemed, where he really dips off. Look at January from last year and maybe even the year before and see how much he really dipped off. But he's overall looks like a good shooter. Let's see how it holds with the volume going up. I think you could also look at his foul drawing. Last year, he's in the top 10% of guards in terms of foul drawn, according to Cleveland Glass. Is that going to hold? Is that sustainable? Is this something that you could even tap into more with his cutting and with other avenues to kind of get him the ball in interesting spots and use his athleticism to kind of make up for some of the height issues he has that aren't really his fault, but just the reality of him being 6'1"? But for me, I'm going to go with a kind of a dual pick here. So last year, he had an assist usage ratio that was just a tad above the bottom fourth of the league, 27th percentile. And this was his career best, mind you. So not very good. And then he had a turnover percentage below league average for what Cleveland Glass defines as combo guards at 11.7%. That, for what it's worth, was the same number as the year before when he was classified as a point guard. And it just little bit of more names he's kind of compared against. And when he's a combo guard, and he is a combo guard. So Sexton, if he can be a player who can feed others more, be impactful beyond scoring at a higher level, is a player that helps the Cavs be better, and B, helps him get the kind of contract he's looking for. In my mind, it'll also have been Garland coexist. If, as we expect, the ball is out of his hands more this year, and Garland takes on a bigger creation role, a bigger role in the offense, this is necessary for Collin to succeed. He has to be a guy that becomes more malleable, feeds into the greater scheme of what the Cavs are doing. This has not all been on him. Let's make that very clear. There has been times where I think the Cavs offense has been designed stagnant. The Drummond stuff last year was obviously just a black hole of lack of offensive efficiency. Injuries, bizarre seasons have all contributed to, I think, some of the issues Collin has had. And he's definitely developed. There's no doubt about it that he's a better player full stop than he was when he came into the league. He adds something to his game every year. The work ethic stuff that you hear about him is true. That he is an absolutely maniac when it comes to putting in the work that he needs to. But the feel of the game, the kind of ability to feed other guys, to kind of play within a bigger ecosystem, and particularly when he's not going to have the ball in his hands as much, I don't think. Not only is it Garland, but Mobley's here. The Cavs are trying to play faster. Ricky Rubio's here. Like, there's all these factors that are going to take him out of just a central role where he's going to be able to run a pick and roll, take a pull-up J, get to the rim, take a three, whatever. He's going to have to feed into this overall ecosystem, and he'll be better for it. I think the Cavs will be better for it. It'll help him get paid, in my mind, but we got to see it happen. And those are kind of, it's assist usage ratio. Is he going to pick up some just more assists? You could throw hockey assists in there as well. There's probably a way that we could, I can go through and calculate, or maybe I'll ask our friends at Cleveland Glass to loop in, hockey assist with assist and just kind of ramp it up even more. But to me, that is the place to look with him. It's obviously improved. I think he's a better passer at times than he gets credit for. He's just not a very creative passer in the way Garland might be, but it's got to hit another level, I think, for the Cavs to improve in some way, and for him to be really locked in as part of whatever is being built here. As for Markkanen, I think it is just so obvious. It's his 3-point shooting. The Cavs paid him. They traded for him, to come in and shoot 3-pointers and space the floor. Markkanen shot 40.2% last year from 3 with Chicago. That's the best number of his career. And most importantly, in my mind, according to NBA.com, Markkanen was 40.5% on catch and shoot 3-pointers, and that made up the vast majority of his shot volume, particularly from three. So if marketing can be that, if he's in that 38, 37 to 40 range, and he can hang enough defensively and get some rebounds. If some of the post up stuff we've seen with him is just kind of cut out of his diet, and you find him as a cutter, as a slasher, and as a shooter, and you don't ever post him because he just doesn't have that in his bag, then he's probably a useful player, even if he's imperfect, and he'll help the team. This becomes, I think, even more paramount if he's going to be the starting 3-pointer, starting three, and play a lot with Mobley and Allen. If you haven't, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Chris Fedor is indicating that that may happen. Um, we'll see what JB says. We're recording this at 10 a.m. So we won't, JB's very cagey about this. We will not know what the starting lineup situation is until I think before tip, or he may even decline to name it in his pregame media availability. But Markkanen has to shoot if that's going to work. There's no argument that he's going to be able to defend threes. Like I think it's kind of going to be weird. It's like Kyle Anderson is not like KD, but he's really skilled. He's a wing. He knows how to kind of operate the ball in his hands. Like that's not an easy thing for Markkanen to chase around. Of the small forwards in the league, like that, I can see how you could say, okay, we can maybe do this with him in theory, but it's putting a lot of pressure defensively on Mobley and Allen to cover up for Markkanen, who's just not a very good defender, has never proven to be an impactful defender. If Markkanen is going to succeed in those lineups, and you're going to just say, okay, we need this spacing. Isaac, he's not there with a shot yet. We need just someone who's going to bomb threes off ball and provide stretch out the defense a little bit. Then I get how you get there. I don't think what I would necessarily do. I'm very skeptical of it being a thing that like actually over the course of a season will bear out. The Cavs have thrown these lineups out, and I know people get excited about them. There's never been like data or film to me that suggests like, hey, these things are actually really good. Marketing doesn't like provide the secondary playmaking Larry Nance did, for instance. He doesn't, Kevin Love, even if you were going to say, okay, we're going to put Kevin there. Kevin's obviously going to be worse on defense. He's older, less athletic, and all that stuff, but like he's a very good passer still. Like he just will pass things open in a way Markkanen just isn't capable of doing. So if you're going to do this, Markkanen has to shoot. Markkanen has to bomb threes at a high volume, 5-6 a game, and he has to shoot them at that 40% clip. Like it has to be that way if Markkanen is going to end up playing meaningful minutes as a wing. I think he is kind of a wing, at least offensively. Defensively, he's 6'11", doesn't have like the ability to stay in front of wings. Are you going to have him chase around shooters if they're playing the three? Like there's just a lot of questions I have. But if he shoots threes, like I can see how you talk yourself into it, even if it is not my personal, I guess, idea of what I would do. But that's why JB Bickerstaff makes a lot of money, and I'm hosting a podcast. But Lockdown's pretty great. So that's where we're at with Lauri. It's really just about the shooting for him. If he doesn't shoot well and he's not doing that, then there's no point of Lauri Markkanen, really. Okay, after the break, Isaac, Okoro, and Jarrett Allen are up to finish up the show. Isaac kind of feels like a good bridge here to touch on with Mr. Markkanen. But first, we got to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. Guys, Cookie Dough Chunk is back right now. They have Blueberry Muffin right now. They were kind enough to send all of the hosts a little box with the pumpkin puffs, which are great, and the Blueberry Muffin bar, which might be my new favorite Built Bar, in the mail. But look, Built Bar has so many great flavors. Coconut, cherry barcia, mint brownie. John Corrales, I know, from Locked On Celtics and Locked On NBA, is a big fan of salted caramel. I think Cookie Dough Chunk is probably my favorite, but dang, that blueberry brownie is great. If they ever bring back the coconut brownie chunk, I'm going to go broke buying those. Look, if you haven't tried any of the flavors, you can get a mix box with two flavors, with two of each of the 9 flavors, excuse me. And remember, not only are Built Bars the best tasting, they're healthy. So, you get this Built Bar, you're going to get 17, 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, with only 4 to 5 grams of sugar and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. So if you order Built Bars today, promo code LOCKED15, and you can get 50% off your order with that promo code. You're going to be getting the best tasting protein bar. You're going to be getting the official protein bar of both the U.S. track and field team and NASCAR. How cool is that? And you can use this promo code in perpetuity. So go to built.com, promo code LOCKED15, order that cookie dough chunk, order that blueberry muffin, and you can save 15% with code LOCKED on. And look, also got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline. A new web interface is something they've debuted for the start of the basketball season, and it includes more props, odds, and lines than ever before. For instance, they have the Cavs as 7.5 point underdogs for Cavs Grizzlies on Wednesday night. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all your basketball and football action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile site to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball, playoffs, NHL, boxing, UFC, and right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Again, promo code Locked On for that sign-up bonus. Okay, last segment, Isaac Okoro and Jarrett Allen. Okoro's is obvious. It is also three-point shooting. He's already a good defender. I can see how you might want him to get more steals, get some more blocks. He is sort of a no stat kind of impact defender right now. And he's going to have a place, but I think he's going to have a place in the NBA as long as he can remain a quality defender. But for him to hit his peak, to max out his potential, his shot has to come around. So last year, Isaac shot 28.9% in three-pointers overall. That was on 3.1 attempts per game. That's just not good. That's bad, full stop. Can't sugarcoat it. For comparison, if you want to look at Matisse Thybulle as sort of a comparison for him, Thybulle, another really good defender, maybe one of the very best perimeter defenders in the NBA. He shot 31% from three last year in summer volume, and he's not a lock to be in closing lineups for the Sixers, despite, again, being one of the very best defenders in the league. That's just the reality of these kind of players, for these kind of players right now. To go into Okoro further, so last year, 24% on non-corner three-pointers. So think about above the break threes, top of the key threes. That's from cleaning the glass. From that, 29.7% on catch and shoot three-pointers versus 26.2 on pull-ups per NBA.com. He took mainly catch and shoot threes, which is kind of the right shot diet for him, but still not very good. Notably, he shot 35%. That's about, if this was, all three-pointers, that would be about league average. 35% on corner threes is at least a good indicator that he can shoot well somewhere on the floor, and you can do some stuff with that. That's a lot of numbers. So let's just break it down really clean. Isaac Okoro is not a good shooter. Corner three-pointers were his best spot. That's not surprising. It's the most, it's the shot that is most well shot in the league among three-pointers. And that's at least a positive sign that Okoro can make shots somewhere and that it's not totally busted. But this has to improve for Okoro to be his best and be the player the Cavs drafted him to be, and I think hoping can be, and I think need him to be. I'm as high in him as anyone. I think he's absolutely outrageous as a defender already. I would trust him do one-on-one. Throw him out there. He's going to handle it as well as any young player can. He's already really strong. He's really skilled. I'm a big, big believer in Isaac Okoro, and he's kind of, from all accounts, he's got that same kind of workout that Collin has. And I think he's going to improve for as long as he's around. There's just no denying that he has to be a better shooter. Teams are going to ignore him. They're going to clog up the paint when he's on the floor if you don't have the other spacing around him. It just becomes hard to play a guy a ton. That impacts how much you want to pay him, how you want to build with him. It's just an unfortunate reality of where he's at right now. And if they want to level up, I can understand, again, how they're going to maybe start marketing to start the year, or at least on some nights. We'll see how this goes and progressing through this in some capacity. If he could get to something like league average around 35%, in mix and cutting, mix and attacking sloppy closeouts, all that stuff. That's a really, really good sign for Isaac. We'll see again if he can get there, if that can be a thing that he can figure out as the year goes on. But that's where we're at with him, and it's all about the three-point shooting. Let's see how he does. Let's see how it looks. Let's see if he can find his place as a shooter. And if he does, you have a ready-made, really good player right there. And every team needs guys like that. They're really hard to find. 3-and-D wings, you can throw out some silly contracts with them at times. Like, obviously the Jetty contract was sort of an idea to do this and it hasn't worked, but I'm still an Okoro believer. But if you're skeptical and the shooting doesn't come this year, then it's a little bit like, okay, like, what do we really do with this kind of guy? When again, you have someone like Thybulle who's really good, maybe the best perimeter defender in the NBA, one of the very best, at least one of the best young ones at the very least. And it's hard to play him all the time because shooting is at such a premium for the wing position in the league. All right, as for Jarrett Allen, to wrap this up, let's look at his shooting in the short mid-range. So that's the 4 to 14 foot range, roughly. last year in his games with the Cavs, he took a higher percentage of shots in that part of the floor than he ever had before, and he did it well. So, A, is that going to happen again if the Cavs' spacing is tight and teams pack the paint? That's what happened a lot last year, and he was kind of pushed out a little bit, had to make more hook shots, had to make more kind of quick little jumpers, etc. And B, can he shoot that well in that spot again? So, if he's going to hit a high number of those shots, that shows that he's capable. That shows that he can at least like adjust to some of that. That's good if you're going to pay him $20 million a year, and he's can show you he's a little more than just a lob catcher and finisher at the rim. It's a smaller issue within the Cavs' overall offense. Like, this is not gonna make or break them taking a big step forward on offense and getting out of the cellar of the league on that end of the floor, but it is just gonna potentially be important for the Cavs functioning. It's still not gonna be a super spacious, luxurious offensive experience for the Cavs, especially when you're playing him and Mobley together, and again, this is how I guess you can get to Markkanen starting to provide the shooting. But it's gonna if he's gonna have to take these kind of shots again and find success in sort of inopportune circumstances, it'll help the team function. It'll help the team get by on offense if he can kind of make these kinds of shots again. And that wasn't just like a 1 year fluke, that this is something he really, really can do. And then this is part of what he is going forward. All right, so that is going to be it for today's show. Again, we'll be back for Cavs Grizzlies. Evan and I, and my co-host who's not here right now, for our first game recap of the season. So come back tomorrow for Evan and I breaking down Cavs Grizzlies. That is an 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tip from Memphis. We'll break down that game in rich detail. We're back to normal here. We're really amped for the season, so hitting you 5 days a week. And remember, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you're listening on. Be well. Enjoy tonight's basketball, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm Chris Manning. Peace.